Okay, we are beginning. All right, so welcome to my art lectures for YouTube and Patreon. If you are here from YouTube, all the Patreon link stuff will be in the description below. You can also purchase these episodes individually if you would like a copy of this PowerPoint that I made specifically for this lecture. So today we're talking about art in general, just sort of an introduction. What is art? And why do we make it? That second question is really the most important. What art is, it's quite variable, but the why is pretty universal throughout humanity. So, again, understanding what the definitions are of art and the history is really, really important, and we will get there. But really understanding the why are we as humans compelled to create art? Because no matter where we are in history, no matter where we are on the planet, people have been making art. So understanding this, especially the context that surrounds the creation, is really the key to understanding the purpose and point of view of the piece, but how the artists are representing themselves, their beliefs, their backgrounds, and how that is reflecting on us, the viewers of said art. So there is a whole interaction between the human beings making the art and the human beings consuming the art. So really, context is everything when we're talking about art. It illuminates, again, the reasoning behind why this piece of art was made, what its purpose for being is, and what we should be getting out of it. So, even though it's something, piece of art that's very famous, historical, well-known, we don't really have the full impact of it, such as Mona Lisa here. Now, although she is from the 1500s, and Da Vinci created several painting techniques when he made her, she was listed amongst the great works of the Renaissance pretty contemporarily in the later 1500s. She didn't really become this iconic image, this greatest painting in the world, this defining everything about portraiture, until after her theft from the Louvre by an Italian national in 1911. Somehow that triggered something, having lost this piece. We did obviously get her back, but this you don't know what you've got till it's gone mentality really triggered this absurd rush of love. And that, it's not that this is a bad painting. She's brilliant, and I can link amazing great art explained about this to give you more background of how she was made and why. But just the hype, right? That really didn't come until 1911, which most people don't know. And while she was missing, people would look at the wall where she hung. It was kind of wild. And now, of course, the Louvre wants a dedicated room just for her because people are trying to see her. And she's actually really quite tiny. And they are kind of ignoring all the other paintings in there. So they want to create a space where people can just come see Mona Lisa and then go on with the rest of the museum. But, so that's, a painting that even if you don't know anything about it, has visual impact. It's beautiful. It's graceful. It's elegant. But sometimes we are, especially modern art, we encounter things that don't make any sense. And we're like, why? How is this art? One of which is Untitled, Portrait of Ross in L.A. by Felix Gonzalez Torres. And it is a pile of candy sitting on the floor. And depending on the installation, sometimes it's like a river of candy against the wall. Sometimes it's in the middle of the floor. Sometimes it's in the corner. It's really dependent on the gallery. And without any context or explanation, you're looking at a pile of purse candy from your grandma and wondering, why is this art? How is this art? And if you don't know the context, that's kind of a valid reaction to have. And I use this as an example in the classroom. But then once the kids get an explanation, or you here get an explanation, it is 175 pounds or 79 kilograms of candy, totaling Ross, the artist Felix's partner, before he died of AIDS. And he created it as both a tribute and an act of mourning, because you are invited to take the candy and eat the candy. And as the candy is depleted, it mirrors his battle with AIDS that he eventually succumbed to. But it also gives, it's like a communion, right? You take this piece that is supposed to fill in for this man's body, and you consume it and you take it with you. And when I teach this, I always challenge the kids. They don't have to tell me, but would you eat the candy? As let me tell you, I ate the candy. I had a piece of candy, and I don't even remember what flavor it was. Probably strawberry, because that's my favorite. And it was a really meaningful experience that I carry with me. And it reminded me of taking communion at church, this partaking in this person's body, bringing their essence into your body and mingling that with your life. That candy had, sugars and various things in it that became part of my system, my blood, my bones, my muscles. And so a little bit of him is living on in me. And that is powerful and beautiful. And it's just a pile of cheap candy on the floor. So it can be both things, right? It can be enormously humanizing. And I get teary just thinking about this experience I had with this pile of candy on the floor. But missing that context, people are going to mock this pile of candy on the floor. Oh, what is that? What is art in the 21st century? Right? And no, it's not beautiful. It didn't take 5 years of careful painting to create, but it is a masterpiece in its own right, because A, it challenges our perceptions. What is art? And B, it engages us on a deeply human level to choose to partake or not, to let that experience sit with you or not. And I am a better person having experienced this piece of art. Truly, I am a better person than I was before I walked into that gallery. And it's been years now. It was held, this particular thing, an exhibit of all of Felix Gonzalez Torres's work, well, not all of it, but a lot of it, was at Cheekwood, which is here in Nashville. And it is their modern art museum. They do the weird stuff, and it's lovely. It is also a botanical garden, so you can have both experiences of things that don't need as much context and things that are extremely context dependent. But yeah, I've never been the same person that I was before I walked into that room and took that piece of candy. And I'm better. I'm a better person than I was before that day. And I think that is the magic of art, truly. So before we had written language, we of course had visual art. And it's not even close. People think, that they emerged rather simultaneously. But humans have an urge to create, and before we had a language, obviously spoken language is a thing, but writing it down comes way later in the course of human history. So the earliest piece we have is this carved piece of ochre. We have no idea what it's for, but it came from Blombus Cave in South Africa. And it is 70,000 years ago. So it hits about 72,000 BCE. BCE stands for before Common Era. So we're not having a necessarily Christocentric calendar. So you'll see that throughout my work and other work. Some people stick to the BC and AD because it's historic, but a lot of scholars will do BCE or CE, Common Era, the years we're in now. But the calendar we currently use is based off the Catholic Church, just in case you didn't know that. So this piece of ochre I love because it represents a design that is really common. You still see today called argyle. And somebody carved these very intentionally. There's other pieces in the cave that are just sharpening stones, and they do not display the same level of intentionality. So this is the most intentional piece of art from the oldest period that we have. And we don't really know anything about the people who made it or what its purpose was. So it remains context-free. And we can fill in the gaps, but we will never know unless somehow other evidence is uncovered and we can start to fill the gaps in more and connect more dots. But really, I don't think we'll ever really, really know because we can't go back 72,000 years and ask the guy or gal who made it. And then Lascaux, wonderful cave, limestone cave in France. Most of our ancestors, you'll see that these are found in caves. Our ancestors weren't living in caves, but they were hanging out in them. The Lascaux cave system is very deep and very, very dark and is probably a ritual space where people went to have spiritual endeavors, to record battles and hunts and all sorts of things. So that is 22,000 BCE. Again, quite a bit younger than the Blombus Cave article, although it is using the same objects in terms of the ochre. You can see the stone is the same color as the horse, and that is ochre. It is a naturally occurring iron oxide stone that makes great pigment. We still use it today. And then the black is going to be charcoal from burnt animal bones, burnt wood, burnt whatever you had around. Different materials, when you burn them, create different colors. So these were probably bone because they are very, very, very dark and kind of oily black. And that you get that when you burn something that has more protein in it. And the cave of Trois Frères, so also in France. So France had a burgeoning early human population, and they were painting things on their caves. Again, these are not caves people dwelled in long term. Blombus Cave might have been. It's a little bit shallower than some of these deep limestone caves. This one is the sorcerer, and he is from 13,000 BCE, and he's great. He's a dude and he's definitely a dude because he has anatomy. He is a dude who may be shape-shifting between human and animal, maybe wearing a disguise to sneak up on the herds because deer are notoriously easy to spook. We don't know. Again, we can't go back 13,000 years and ask them what were you doing here? What was your thought process? We are only left with the finished product and a lot of questions. So he's a little blurry on the wall itself, and when this image was taken, the Henri Brieux drawing, I think that's from the 1940s, and it's been almost 100 years. So the world, right? The air, the environment, people going in there, light, especially artificial light, breathing, climate change, all of those things affect the sort of the structure of the cave and the walls, and that's why Lascaux and a lot of these caves are actually closed to visitors now. But Lascaux, I will also drop that in the description or in the Patreon text, where you can take a virtual tour, and it's a little nausea-inducing, but it is really cool. So you can pretend you're walking around, and it's just like a flying camera of computer-generated imagery, but you get to see everything. So that's amazing, and it's free. Just go over there on the net. You don't have to actually go to France. Although I would love to see it, one of those bucket list things. Same thing with Trois Frères. There is a lot other things in that cave besides the sorcerer. He's just our most famous guy. And then writing itself is only from 3000 BC. So there's almost 10,000 years between our friend here in Trois Frères and Sumerians in Mesopotamia, who are creating a system of marks that creates language where they can write stuff down and we can still read it. and know about shady copper merchants who are selling low quality copper and harassing people's servants. So, which, every time people try to say, oh, kids today or whatever, I'm just reminded of how humans have always humaned and we will continue to human, and writing letters, sternly worded letters to the management because of bad customer service is just so universal and historic. So yeah, but cuneiform is the earliest form of writing that we know of. Is not that old, actually, when you compare it to our visual art. So, of course, art does not replace your written word. If you have ever looked at a picture book, there are picture books that are all just images and no writing. Most of them have images and accompanying writing because those images help to enhance the language, enhance the understanding, give it more emotional heft, either, poignant, but also joyful. So you can enhance your understanding of the written word with imagery. And this is one of my favorite comics. It's from Linda Berry from 2016. And in it, this mom is looking at a portrait of Madonna and Child. And as we go into history, these were very popular in the Middle Ages, into the Renaissance. Actually, through the Baroque, really, is when you kind of stop seeing them. They have a little moment now and again in the 19th century. But they are all the rage in the Middle Ages through the Renaissance of the Virgin Mary holding baby Jesus. So the woman says, I'm not sure how to look at art. And the little baby, who is like a little potato-shaped blob, I love it. The mom is sort of doggish. The baby says, what's supposed to happen? And the mom says, something big, a revelation. Suddenly you just understand. But I'm not sure how to make it happen, she says in the third frame. And the little one says, how about you lift me up so I can see it better? And so she does. And she puts herself as a reflection of Madonna and Child, with her holding her little toddler and looking at the painting reflected back at her. And even though, sure, we're talking about divine beings and religious iconography, but the whole point of Christianity is the humanity of the characters involved. And so you have this reflection of an ordinary person in an art gallery and their baby looking at their reflection in the divine of the Virgin Mary and the baby Jesus. And regardless of the religious elements to it, when you can see yourself in the art, then it becomes extremely powerful. And I love this little art comic, because it really illustrates that beautifully of how, because the final frame has no words in it. It's just them seeing themselves in this painting that's hundreds of years old and sharing this experience with the sitters, right? But also the artist who wanted to capture this moment of tenderness between a mother and child. All other, religious and iconographic elements aside, it is a tender moment between a mother and child. And then, that can be replicated by just about anybody. It doesn't even have to be your child. Actually, in the comic, it's not specific that that's the little baby's mom, but it is a adult figure that is important. So, yeah. So again, art and language, art and history, again, seeing yourself is a major part of what makes art great. So the desire to make art lives within all of us, but a lot of people lose that. When you get older, you get jobs, you get worried about stuff, and you kind of lose that ability to just be free and draw stuff. So these are some of my daughter's pieces. This is when I was pregnant with her brother, and she was thinking about what it was going to be like when he was born. She was five or six. So we were at the Nordstrom's Cafe, and you can draw on the tablecloth, the paper covers. So here's her rendition of her and baby brother. Here's one she did on an app. and had a lot of fun with it. Digital, so it doesn't have to be crayon or pencil and paper. Digital apps are a lot of fun. The little drops are, the longer you touch them, the more rings they get around it. I don't quite remember, but she really worked hard on this. I mean, it was both something she was doing to pass the time in the car or while waiting for dinner to come or something like that at a restaurant. But it's cute and it's fun, and I love the colors, and I love just how, how fun it is, how dimensional she made it. And she wasn't trying to make a masterpiece, she was just messing around. But it's beautiful and it makes me happy. And a more recent image, although most of these are from 2017, this one is a mermaid. She loved mermaids, and a turtle. And again, for fun, she has art supplies to her disposal, and she just drew it for fun, and it's really cute. It's all her favorite colors, and really shows actually quite a big difference between her early in the year little drawing of her and her brother up to something she really spent a lot of time and worked really hard on. And even though it wasn't this free, scribbly, scrabbly, just free-for-all thing, she did work very hard on it, but the process brought her a lot of joy, and it created an image that she hung on her wall for years. So, and she wasn't worried about whether it was super good or whatever. It's not gallery worthy, but that wasn't the point. The point was she wanted to draw a mermaid because she wanted a particular vision of a mermaid on her wall, and so she drew it. Here we are. And it's really cute. Art by my daughter, 2017. So all these things just came from that year. All right, but art makes us human, and we shouldn't let go of that element of expression that digs into a part of our psyche. We tend to think of things more logically, especially here in the 21st century, as grown-ups too, that everything has to have an explanation and have words and things. But pictures, they cut right to the chase, right? They're right directly in experience that we're having from our soul. And you can see that when we're looking at something like Vincent van Gogh's work. You can see his desire to connect. You can see the way he looked at the world, and he expressed his feelings about his place in the world. And most of his paintings are about that, are about trying to capture this turbulent world that he experienced in a way that was both illuminating to his sense of self, but also was beautiful. And all his work is stunning. It's very beautiful. It's why it speaks to us still today from the 1880s. And, he's best known for being in an asylum and being a troubled human. But I don't think you need to know that to understand his work. This is probably the second most famous painting in the world. I'd say Mona Lisa is the first, and Starry Night is probably the second most famous painting. If you ask people what paintings they know those two. But there's a reason it's famous, and there's a reason it's popular. It's because A, it's stunning, and it's gorgeous, and it's beautiful, and B, there is something inside this painting that talks to us. Anyone who's ever been lonely, anyone of us who's ever struggled, even though this is a painting about cypress trees in a village and the night sky on a blustery night, the wind is blowing, yet in the way the stars are twinkling, there is something about it that kind of reaches inside us too and says, hey, I see you. I've been there. I get it. And it's hard to put your finger on that, but he really was able to express these deep and complicated emotions in ways that are visually gratifying and also soothing to our souls as well over here, on the far side of history from him. And like I said, knowing he painted while institutionalized gives us a deeper understanding of what his mindset was when he was creating these. But if you didn't know that, it doesn't really make this work any less compelling. So art is for everyone, every human. But a specific piece or artist might not be for you. And that's okay. you can appreciate and understand the context, the meaning, the purpose, and still say, this is not for me. You don't have to have it in your house. So Rothko is one of those artists that people just get like irrationally angry about. He just painted squares. There's a lot with Rothko. Again, I have a great video that I will link with this that explains Rothko very well. And I went from somebody who, Rothko's okay, to somebody who really likes Rothko. Now that I understood his background and what he was thinking, why he made the art that he made, and how he made it is really compelling. Am I gonna go out and hang Rothkos in my house? Gosh, no. That is not, it's not my style, it's not my vibe. But do I look at them now and see something I didn't see before and have more understanding about what he was doing and why? Absolutely. And that makes this work far more meaningful to me than it was previously. So I implore you to have an open mind, even if you see art you don't immediately understand. Because it might not be for you as an audience member, but that doesn't mean you can't get something from it, even if you're not really the intended target audience. So not understanding a piece of art or not being the target audience does not make the art bad. I have the personal belief that there's no such thing as bad art. There's art that has sort of a bad purpose, like some propagandized art and things that are about creating division and harming people. And I'm thinking about art that made fun of a lot of World War II era art was very problematic because it was reinforcing dehumanizing stereotypes, even though they were the enemy of America, or depending what side you were on, right? Like Nazi art was very dehumanizing against Jewish people, and American art was very dehumanizing against Japanese people. And none of those are great. I don't necessarily argue that the art is in and of itself bad. It had a bad message that was understood to be a good message, or at least a positive message, a necessary message in its time. And again, understanding that context is essential. Doesn't necessarily make the art itself bad. Poorly made art, or art that appears poorly made, a lot of that is what we would call folk art or outsider art. And even in our modern art, we're looking at like Jackson Pollock and things, and people are like, there's no skill there. And once you understand the context of what these various artists were doing, either they're people who had no access to art education and were doing their best in a childlike way, like kids who don't have art training are still making beautiful things because it reflects their experiences and their vision and their soul, or art that is purposely eschewing the rules and structures. And all of those have value. But again, they have their own context. So again, there's nothing to me that makes art bad, inherently bad. So you definitely need to look for the contextual understanding. And even if you don't agree with it, like to understand it, you don't have to love it. I tell my students that all the time. I'm not asking you to become a fan of Andy Warhol's prints, his screen printing. But you need to understand what they were doing, what they were for, why they were made, and their place in history. It doesn't mean you have to love it. Again, you don't have to buy it and put it in your house. You just have to understand the context in which this piece was created and what that means in the larger realm of history. Also, seeking art that speaks to you, which is fine. You can have preferences in art. There's great pieces of art that I loathe, and they're very important, and they're very well made. I just hate them. So, and that's okay. It's okay to hate the art. That's another thing. It's fine to hate the art, as long as you're hating it for a reason. I don't like the way it looks, right? That's valid. This is my least favorite color. You have your own personal reasons, but you don't want to undermine it and say this art is terrible and nobody should see it. you frame it as this is definitely not for me, and you find stuff that is for you. So yeah, I actively dislike a lot of important art. Really actively. Such as effing Guernica, man. I hate this piece. It is so important. It's about war. It's supposed to be stressful. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. And that's okay. That's part of art's job as well. There is a saying that art comforts the afflicted and afflicts the comfortable. And it's okay to hate it. This is still an extremely important, moving piece that deserves to be in the artistic canon. It is a part of history. It is extremely moving. It is extremely stressful and upsetting to me. And that was Picasso's goal. He wanted to make it upsetting and stressful, to make people understand that war is terrible. War is brutal and indiscriminate, and you win, but you also really lose. And that in the bloodshed and the destruction. So that's what this picture is, this huge mural. It's a huge mural. And this wasn't just done on the fly. I mean, there's dozens of preparatory sketches and things that Picasso created. And he also did a smaller version you can actually put in a gallery, because this thing is ginormous. It's like a whole wall. And I think it's on a wall, so it can't be moved, but he made one that you can put into, that is able to be shipped and taken to different galleries and shown around, because he felt it was really important. This is an important message. And again, it's a terrifying, brutal, horrible, stressful piece, but it is good art. Definitely good art. I just happen to hate it. So again, you don't have to like it, but you need to understand it and appreciate the message. So, because for all of history, human and pre-human, we're finding more evidence that Neanderthals and Denisovians and early human ancestors were making art. And the through line is, I'm here, see me, see my beliefs, look at my history. These are my values. I'm showing myself to you. I'm sharing my soul with you. And that's extremely magical and extremely human. I don't know about, let's say, elephants and dolphins and other highly intelligent mammals that we share this planet with, what kind of art they have. But so far as we know, humans are the only creatures that make art. And that is super unique, because not only are we the only ones that make art, we're also the only ones who understand art, that art can affect us. Animals don't have the same reaction to paintings. They don't quite understand how to view this two-dimensional object that has all these sort of visual tricks that give it three-dimensional qualities. They can't read the intention. They can't appreciate visual metaphors, things like that. So yeah, that is something that belongs to humans, and we should value it and appreciate that, yes, somebody made this for us as a collective humanity, but also sometimes there's specific things that are for audiences, for specific viewers, to say, hey, you're not alone. I've done this, I've suffered through this, I've enjoyed this, and I know you do too. So this is a piece of graffiti. So okay, technically it's writing, but it's also artsy because they drew it in a very cute way. This is a piece of graffiti from Pompeii. And it says, well, okay, here's the Latin. But it's translated as, "We two dear men, friends forever, we're here. And if you want to know our names, they were Gaius and Aulus." Just, hey, we're here. And if you know the story of Kilroy, this is a World War II little dude. He was drawn on planes and boats and munitions and things with the moniker Kilroy was here. And we don't really know where he came from. If you go to that ThoughtCo, I'll link that as well. If you go to that ThoughtCo article, it gives the best not to our knowledge. You'd think something that became so famous not that long ago, we would know who began it, but frequently those things are shrouded in mystery. But it became a life of its own. People would draw Kilroy all over the place. And it was messages from home, because these were things that had been built in the United States and were being sent to the war front in Europe and later in the Pacific. With this little note, Kilroy was here, so that somebody watching you, but keeping an eye on you, somebody from home was reaching out through time and space. And yeah, it became graffiti that was popular all over, especially in the European theater. But it was to remind people that what you're fighting for, right? You're protecting the people from home, and the people from home are reaching back out to you with these little tokens of, hey, Kilroy was here. Somebody who cares about you had their hands in making this device that is going to protect you, that's going to help you fight. And that is so beautiful. Again, connection. That's what it is. We're all looking, everyone in the world, every human that's ever been, just going through the world looking for connections. And art gives us those opportunities like nothing else. So, that's what it is. Art is human. Thanks, guys. Look for my next one. Like and subscribe for stuff like this in the future. We'll be going into doing drawing and painting and what the definitions of all of those are. And just to help you have a functioning art vocabulary and, take home the top prize at pub trivia night. So watch this space. More to come.